everyone, and welcome to this Distinction Cast. This is where ADOM gets to highlight some of the very best voices in our industry right from within our own community. I'm Chevelle Galton Rice, the Director of Membership and Education, and I'm truly so glad that you're here with us today. Now, if you're new and wondering what a distinction cast actually is, it's more than just a conversation about dental management. This is where we get to spotlight our distinction holders, the leaders who have been or are in the trenches every day, leading teams, solving problems, and making an impact in their practices. So they are here to share practical insights, real world strategies, and a little inspiration along the way to help you grow and thrive in your own role. So I'm super excited because today we have the opportunity to learn from Rebecca Herring, an ADOM diplomat, which is actually the highest level of distinction from within the American Association of Dental Office Management. Rebecca is actually going to take us behind the scenes on how appreciation transforms your dental team, because the strongest practices aren't just clinically excellent, they are deeply human. But before we dive into our topic, I would love, Rebecca, for you to share a little bit about yourself. I am so excited because I know you are a trusted leader in our industry. So please, if you could share a little bit about yourself with us, I would greatly appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on today, Chevelle. It's an absolute honor to be with you as someone who's new into the leadership here in ADOM, and it's a real honor to be with you today. Like you stated, I earned my diplomat status in certification in 2025, and I've absolutely enjoyed every moment that I've had in ADOM. I love our annual meetings and the opportunity I've had to get to know so many different leaders in our community. And I absolutely love this moments to come on to our distinction cast and share some of the fun opportunities and events and things that have happened and experiences that I've had as a leader in several management and dental practices. So thanks for having me here today. I did a couple years ago start my own consulting business. And so now I'm out helping as many practices as I can grow and establish protocols and systems in their practices so they can be more productive and strategically sound as they grow their practices today.
That's amazing. That's so exciting to hear how much you've grown within, being in management and now doing, other things to help dental practices. So that's amazing to hear. And I love knowing that there are pathways even beyond management. So that's wonderful. That's exciting. Well, shall we jump into our topic and see, different ways of how, you can help us, um, oh my gosh.
Show appreciation for all of our team members.
Jason, yes, to all of our team members.
Absolutely. I love this topic, and I especially love talking about it in the month of February. Not only is it, Valentine's Day, it's, we're getting ready for dental assistant appreciation. It's going to be our, dentist appreciation day, and a lot of times in which I think it's important that we value and show appreciation to our team members. We all work really, really hard in our practices. I think we give and we love becoming, like you stated earlier, we're very human. We're deeply human. And I think we love to support our teams. We love to support our dentists. And I think deep down, I think we all really want to be team players, and we want to be a part of the practice and with our dentists to help us all be better and to grow the practice and to, show our team how much we do appreciate all the things that they do. I think that it's easy for us sometimes to show that appreciation, around our birthdays, right? Our teams have birthdays and we love celebrating those. And so we'll have cake and we'll do lunch. We sit down and we're like, woohoo, happy birthday, everybody. And those are easy for the team. And I think where sometimes our teams struggle just a little bit in that appreciation is finding the little things that people do every day after a hard day, right? Recognizing it and saying, "Hey, Sarah, thanks so much for staying late today. I know you might have had plans, you might have had a family that you needed to get home to, but I appreciate the positive attitude and your willingness to stay and help us take care of the patient who was in pain, had a toothache. Thank you so much for, well, being willing to stay and help me get through the end of the procedure today, and for cleaning it up and being ready and setting it up and being ready for tomorrow. Meant a lot to me. Thank you." Those little thank yous can really mean a lot, not only to our team member, but I think to the morale of our teams. And that's where I think those differences really come into play. I remember a time when I first started to manage or was a manager in a practice. And I personally, as an office manager, I think maybe those that are listening and maybe even yourself can remember those days, right? When you first started out, you're a new manager and you just really wanted to be your very, very best. And I remember I had a team member who, man, she always went out of her way, always. And they were always the little things that I don't think that people necessarily noticed because we didn't call it out very often, right? It wasn't a birthday. It wasn't an anniversary of working in the workplace, but she always did the little things that really had an impact on the day. Sometimes just making the day flow easier, whatever it was, right? And I remember thinking, I want her to know that I notice and that it does have an impact and that I appreciate what she's doing for our team. And I didn't want to make a big deal about it because she was really kind of a quiet person. And so I just wrote her a little note and I just stuck it in her locker. And I didn't want to make a big deal about it. I wanted her to know how much I appreciated her. So I just slid the note into her locker. And the next morning I came in and she was crying. And I thought, oh my gosh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. I don't know. And she just came over and gave me the biggest hug. And she just said, "Thank you. I didn't think anyone noticed me. I didn't think anyone noticed these little things that I did, but thank you." That really meant a lot to me.
That's amazing. I know it's so hard for us as managers to get stuck in managing what's going wrong in an office, that really like taking a step back and, like you said, looking at like even the smallest of things. I think people, um, you know, don't necessarily, think it's something that big, but it can make a huge impact. And when, like you said, when we recognize people, even in the quietest ways or the smallest ways, it can make a huge difference, just like internally, make them feel good about what they're doing and reminding them why they do what they do, which is amazing. I do want to go back to, you had mentioned that, um, you know, in practices that you've been in, celebrating team members, you know, birthdays or, things like that that are more planned. Um, I would love to talk a little bit more about that, because I think that it's something that varies from office to office. That there's some offices that do celebrate, team members' birthdays or anniversaries. Um, and sometimes it's almost expected. Or sometimes offices don't necessarily do that. And then team members may feel unappreciated. So, what's kind of your thoughts on, when offices do or choose not to celebrate, those types of things, and maybe like feedback on, how managers, can maybe implement or how they have implemented those types of things in the past to make their teams feel like we remember certain moments like birthdays and anniversaries and things like
Yeah, this is a great question. So I'm really glad you're asking it, Chevelle. So I think one of the easiest ways and most efficient ways to remember special days, things that are important, is when you hire a new employee, have them fill out a get to know me kind of a sheet, right? Here's my Here are my favorite colors, here's my favorite treat, here's my favorite place to get coffee and my order. And here's where I like to go shopping. If I could go anywhere on vacation, this is where I'd love to go. Even kind of like a this and that, right? Do you like donuts or do you like bagels? Do you like the mountains or do you like the beach, right? This gives you some really good, a good way almost to get in their head of things that they love, things that they liked. Are you a reader or are you movies focused, right? What do you like to do with your family? How many family members do you have? Is your family close? Do they live far away? Um, all these little questions can give you some really good feedback into who they are as a person, but also really good gift ideas for little things, right? Right down to a $10, Starbucks or BlackRock or Dutch Bros kind of a gift card as a little thank you to when's your wedding anniversary? This one I think can have a really huge impact on our team members. When do we ever celebrate someone's wedding anniversary? And not everybody's married, and that's okay, right? But how about that? How about with their date that they got married, right? And the doctor, right, office manager, we give them a little gift card or a little basket or something on their wedding anniversary that says, dinner with your husband on us. Congrats on 2 years of marriage, 5 years of marriage, 25, 30, 40 years of marriage, right? Whatever it may be. And this info sheet that we gather on the first day that they show up in our office to work for us, right? Can be this myriad of information on somebody that they think is just, oh, they just want me to fill this out. They don't know that we're going to use this as a way to celebrate so many wins and a way to set a culture in your practice, right? Whether they choose to celebrate big things or not, right? Is just a way of their favorite color is yellow, right? So when you're ordering little mugs for everybody, right? We know that Chevelle loves blue and Rebecca, maybe I love black. I don't know. Right? And you could order things that way, right? They're just ways of noticing little things about our team members. Now, if you have an office that doesn't necessarily like to celebrate big things, maybe you have a team of 25, 35 people, right? That's hard. That's hard to celebrate things like that for individually, right? That maybe you have celebrations for birthdays one time in that month for whoever on your team has a birthday. That get to know you sheet is still a way to personalize maybe what goes in the card, right? This person loves going to this specific store to shop for their clothes or for whatever it may be, right? Or they love to eat out at this restaurant in particular that's local to your area. That $25 gift card, maybe everybody on the team goes in, $5 each, however your team wants to organize that is still a really great way to feel as though your team loves you and they know things about you and you're part of that dental team, community, family, whatever you want to call it in your practice, because they've remembered some of those little things, or the office manager does. And that's how they celebrate you, right? It doesn't have to be everything, but it feels really personable. And you feel like this is a culture in which your practice makes you feel valued and appreciated and heard. And you're all connected in some way or another.
Yeah. I love that because you bring up a great point that there's offices of different sizes. And so we know that, smaller practices, it may be a lot easier to celebrate someone individually. And then, like you mentioned, a practice that may have a ton of employees, you might be celebrating birthdays every week. Um, and so I love the idea that you have of maybe doing like a monthly celebration. So everyone who has a birthday or an anniversary or whatever, within that month and celebrate people. And I love, love, love your idea of having that form be a part of a new hire's like onboarding process. That way, then you can get to know those little things because it is nice to have like little ideas because not everybody wants flowers or, not everybody wants a Starbucks, whatever the case may be. So it's nice to have that variety of all the different types of questions that would give, someone the idea of like, okay, what are little things? What are some of the mid-range or high dollar items, that are gift ideas that we can give to our team members. So I love that. And I think that's something that a lot of the people watching this conversation can definitely implement very easily in their practices as part of their onboarding process. So that's wonderful. Um, do you mind if I switch some things up a little bit and it's still on the part of appreciation because I know, like, for us as managers, the doctors lean on us a lot to make sure that we do show appreciation to our team. Um, but let's talk about the flip side because we tend to be the ones that are taking care of our people, which is our job, and that's part of what we do. That's what we love to do. But what about from, like, a manager perspective? Like, feeling appreciated from that side of things?
I love this question, right? Because it's true, right? The doctor generally relies on a manager to help facilitate, right? I think doctors want to show appreciation too, but we really do rely on our managers to help facilitate the birthday parties or the lunches or so on, right? And I believe in a way, managers are, let's just say, leading by example, right? And I think that just as much as we're asking our employees when they're hired to fill out this get to know you sheet, we should fill one out for our doctors too,
Mhm.
right? I believe we lead that example of, hey, um, we're gonna hey, let's just say Sally's got a birthday next week, doctor. Everybody on the team's contributing, our standard $5, right? So we're doing this, this, and this. This is what we're gonna put in our basket for her. It's all off of her get to know you sheet. And I think it's gonna be really pretty. I think she'll really appreciate it. Are you okay with this? Right? We are leading the doctor too by example, right? So when our turn comes around, right? There is nothing wrong, just like we do with maybe our husbands or our dads or grandpas or parents, whatever it may be. Lead the doctor by example too. It isn't that he intentionally is forgetting about you or your birthday or your length of service anniversary or anything like that. It's just that, like you said, and I think you stated it beautifully, they just rely on us to do a lot of these things. So when it's getting to be close to your birthday, hey, doctor, my birthday's next week. I just wanted to share my get to know you sheet in case you needed some help or support with working with the team to come up with something that you would like to put into a basket or whatever for my birthday. It sounds, I know we probably feel really awkward saying it, but you've been leading by example all year long for everybody else. And he probably just needs a little, oh, yeah, you probably can't do your own, right? Or he may say, hey, Chevelle, here's $100. If you'll put your own basket together, the team and I will present it at lunch. Yeah, I don't know, right? It just depends on the doctor and how much he really relies on you. But I really honestly do not believe that doctors intentionally miss the mark when it comes to those of us managers or leaders in our practice that really do help facilitate everything else. I really think they just need a little support or help, right? Hey, I'm headed off to ADOM conference. The week I get back is Office Manager Appreciation Month or week, right? The whole week, Docker. Pull in someone from the practice that's a good friend, pass your sheet to that person, have her work with the dentist. But just as in leadership, as in anything else, right? We lead by example. And if we want to have those same things we give to our team, just give the doctor a little nudge.
Yeah, that's a good point to make. And actually, you said something, like handing off the sheet to, another team member, maybe for those larger practices, um, having like a little birthday committee or something, where, the managers are not always the one who has to have that on their plate, like get everybody involved in showing appreciation to each other as well is a good point to make. So that's wonderful. I love that idea.
Folks, really good at parties. Maybe they'd love to do it for everybody. I don't know. You might have that person on your team.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned earlier, the one team member that, maybe doesn't necessarily want to be like showcased, and have, them have this like appreciation in front of everyone, like in morning huddle, let's say, or something like that. How can you gauge, or how would you find out, like as a manager, um, whether or not someone likes that? Because there may be team members out there who like do not want to be in the spotlight at all. So what would be a good way to be able to learn how team members like to be shown appreciation? You know what I mean?
I think again, this is where that, all about me or get to know me sheet that you use when someone is hired is another really great way for employees to be able to share some of those preferences on that sheet, right? There's nothing that feels intimidating about filling out a get to know me sheet on that first day 2 or 3 of starting in a practice, right? What's your favorite color? And those aren't intimidating questions, but neither does the how do you like to be shown appreciation, right? Do you like to be shown appreciation in front of people, in front of your employees? Would you rather be shown appreciation privately or more in a one-on-one situation? That's a great time to ask them because it's not intimidating. You just started working here. No one's called you out yet, right? Same with um, the way and this is kind of off topic just a little bit, but same with, if we have some constructive feedback to give you, would you prefer that one-on-one? Do you have a problem with that in a group of your colleagues in your same department, right? So if we're with your group of your clinical team, if like you're a dental assistant or you're a hygienist, right? Or in our front admin team, are you okay if we do it in a small group? Or is your preference really just one-on-one? This is how you really get to know your team. And honestly, as a manager, you're really asking some good feedback questions and how you can be a good leader for each member of your team. Also, I think a really great book for team members to read when they're starting in a practice is The 5 Love Languages in the Workplace, right? This really helps you know how do they like to be shown appreciation and what is their love language in receiving it.
Yes. And that's, I think, really important because it's also kind of asking the team members permission too, because if you don't know and you kind of throw them off guard, that could set, maybe a not so great feeling. And so I love that idea of adding that question into the form. How do you want to feel appreciated? I think that's wonderful, a wonderful question to ask. And then you're also asking permission as well. So that's great. And I love everything that you're talking about is all built around, and you've said it multiple times, the culture and morale. I think we're in this, these times where we get we're so bogged down in all of our tasks and duties. And I know our team members have so much on their plate, um, that, it's so important to make sure that we do have a positive culture, for our teams. And I think that's something that always needs to be in the forefront to talk about and to remind managers, doctors, and just the teams in general of what that actually looks like for your practice. Like, what is that culture? What is that expectation, of how we treat each other or celebrate each other, or the way you'd mentioned, like, how do you like to receive feedback? That is a great question, to ask somebody as well. And I think caring enough to ask is what builds positive culture within a practice. So that's
Right.
wonderful.
I think it also creates that sense of like psychological safety in the workplace when you feel like it's okay for me to express my preferences, right? When it comes to appreciation, to feedback, to is it safe, right? Is it okay? Can I go to Chevelle and say, hey, I have a concern, I have a problem, and I know it's okay to go to you and mention what I need some support in because you've been so respectful of me and my needs and what my preferences are. I know it's okay to come and have a conversation with you. So I think the other thing is, we've talked a lot about like the big things that we celebrate, right? The anniversaries and the birthdays and those kinds of things. One thing I did want to kind of just sidetrack onto just a little bit is recognizing the little things every day. I kind of what I started with in the beginning when we started the webinar. And so I wanted to throw out an idea for anyone who's listening to our wonderful conversation, which is, and I recommend this to all the offices that I work with and coach, which is start a little, we call it kudo jars, right? Where there's just a little piece of paper and the jar in the break room. So at any point during the day, if someone sees something but the opportunity hasn't presented itself or whatever, go in and write a little kudo to somebody. Fold it up, put it in the jar. And at the morning huddle is usually when I recommend the teams do it because I think it's a great way to start your day is positive affirmations. Read a couple of them, right? Because what I like about that is it's not only recognizing team members, but it's peers recognizing peers, right? It's someone on the same team, not a manager, and it's not always the doctor, right, that has to share that appreciation, but it's someone who works alongside you that recognizes your hard work, shows that appreciation, and is not afraid to say thank you. Because I think at times when we're in that workplace, I not intentionally, but I think sometimes we feel a little competition with our fellow coworkers sometimes. And so when we have our coworkers that can come and say, John, thank you so much for jumping in there and helping me with that patient. I don't know what came over me. I was just feeling a little overwhelmed, and I appreciate you just recognizing that and not being afraid to just jump in and take over so that I could step out, use the restroom, whatever it may have been, right? Maybe the blood was a little much and I just, I don't know what, right? We have team members and we're not afraid to say thank you. Thank you for helping me. Thank you for jumping in and finishing the instruments. Thanks so much for coming in and doing the perio charting alongside me. Appreciate you looking and noticing I was running a few minutes behind. It's saying, hey, thanks, Tom, for answering the phones because we were just getting bombarded with people checking in. Appreciate you being willing just to pick it up and put them on hold. It just really took some pressure off of us at the front desk. You're amazing. Yeah, you are a team member, right? Those little things, they don't seem like anything big, right? But they are big. And if they impact your day in a positive way, don't be afraid to say thank you, right? Make it fun and then bring those to your team morning huddles and read a couple of them, right? Either at the beginning of your huddle, at the end of the huddle, just before you head out to start another day. We are an amazing team. And we can't do it without every single one of you, whether you're a team of 3 or a team of 10 or a team of 100. You need every single person on your team. We need everybody. So thank you so much for all that you do.
I love that. There was a book that my kids read, I think when they were in kindergarten, and I can't remember the exact name, but it had to do with being a bucket filler or a bucket dipper. And, of course, you want to be a bucket filler, someone who is always, um, you know, recognizing people, and it's not just the manager, but everyone on the team. Um, Giving compliments, because when we fill each other's bucket, it makes us feel good, and we get, when our buckets get overfilled with um positivity and thank yous and signs of appreciations, like, it makes us want to do more for the team. And I love the idea of giving each other, like, writing down the little slips, like you mentioned, of giving, someone kudos. Um, and, having that ability to, like, fill someone's bucket, because you never know, like, especially in morning huddle, like, that's a great way to start, everyone's morning. Um, because you don't know, like, how someone's morning started. And so I love the idea that you shared about, having a kudos jar, or little buckets that people can put little notes in for each other, just saying thank you, or showing signs of appreciation that way. Like, I I know I talked about, like, gifts and things, but finding ways to show appreciation without having to spend money a lot of the times is more impactful than the dollars, behind a gift, or, things like that, because um it it can sometimes just mean more, to know, like, wow, someone notices me, notices how much effort I put in. And for those offices that, are maybe smaller practices, or that don't have the budget, like, showing signs of appreciation doesn't have to cost a ton of money. It can be something so small and simple as saying thank you. And that's so important. That's something we can do every day, all day long, and it's free.
It is 100% free, right? I love it because not everybody, and this is a conversation I was having the other day, not everybody's motivated by money. Don't Money's good, and we all probably needs a little extra, right? But when you're talking about retaining your team, we don't want to lose the good people. I love that I have so and so in my office that is just the hardest worker, right? But we tend to sometimes focus on those that aren't meeting expectations. And we spend a lot of time trying to help and encourage and develop and get them to a place where they can be a good team member. And we should. But we also don't want to forget the people that are our amazing team members that we never want to lose. And this is where we talk about when we prioritize appreciation and recognizing hard work, and those that are in our practices that are like the team members, the cheerleaders, the people that are keeping everybody motivated and happy, and our patients happy, and those kinds of things, right? We don't want to reduce the appreciation to them as well, right? Because when we start to do that, we're losing that engagement with them. And that's when we start to see that disengagement at work. We don't feel as appreciated. We don't think they value as hard as we're working. And so when we can keep up with that appreciation, and again, like you just said, and I love the way you said that, it can be as simple, just thank you, right? Just recognizing, "God, you are amazing. I love your positive attitude. Thanks for coming in here every day with a smile on your face," because it puts a smile on my face too, right? People that are happy and positive, you just want to be around them, right? I love that. Such a great way to put it. And it helps our whole team feel that way. And I think that is incredible. we don't realize the impact you can have on somebody just by saying, thank you, you're amazing. Please keep the positivity. I love it. And the impact it literally has on the whole team around them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I could talk to you all day about this topic because it's so much fun, to chat about different ways that we can show appreciation to our team. And I just want to thank you and let you know how much I appreciate you, Rebecca, for taking the time to, um, you know, talk about this important topic, and give us ideas of how, you know, the managers out there, the doctors, can show appreciation to their teams. This was, an amazing topic and something that is so important to always keep in the forefront of our mind because our people are our most valuable asset when it comes to patient care. That we want them to know that they feel appreciated. And I appreciate you so much for being on and chatting with me. This is something so meaningful, and I truly appreciate you sharing your expertise with our community. And to everyone who joined us today, thank you so much for being here and investing in your own growth and learning, from Rebecca of ways that you can show your team appreciation. Please be sure that you're following us on all of our social media platforms, so we can all stay connected and get updated on all of our educational opportunities such as this one, and all the different resources that we have coming your way. Rebecca, thank you again. It was such a pleasure to learn from you, and this was so amazing. I appreciate you so much being
Hi,
here.
Marie. And if I can just end, Chevelle, with just a quick offer to anyone who's listening, if they want to reach out to me, I'd be more than happy to send them my Get to Know You packet. It's like a 4-page packet that we use or I use in my coaching, that I'll happily send to anyone who would like to mix it up a little bit and have some new questions to ask and some fun ways to really engage, so they can explore some new ways of showing appreciation to their team.
That would be such an amazing resource. Thank you so much for offering to sharing that with our community. We really appreciate that. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you to all of our managers, everyone in ADOM, anyone who's looking to join. Please come join our community. I absolutely love everything it offers. Come follow your distinction path and come find this community of incredible people who are out there to help and love and support on all of our managers and teams and those looking to move forward in their management career path.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.